Dear young adults on Sairam, welcome to the 5th Young Adult Talent Development Workshop. Before we kickstart today's workshop, let's pray to our beloved Bhagawan to ensure that he has blessings on us for this session to run smoothly. Om. Dear Bhagavan, we pray to you to seek your guidance to deepen our understanding and broaden our thinking. Swami, with your divine blessings, may the skills that we develop from this workshop be used to aid all of us in our daily life. Om. Shanti, Shanti, Shanti. Today's session will be facilitated by Brother Rooshi Nathwani from UK. Brother Rooshi is a doctor practitioner in London and is currently pursuing his PhD in liver cirrhosis and liver immunology from Imperial College in London. He has served as a young adult coordinator and a devotional coordinator in the UK and had the opportunity to perform and play the keyboard in the presence of our beloved Sathya Sai Baba. As a young adult from the UK, he has undertaken 10 UK pilgrimages to Prashanti Nilayam, during which he was a part of 2 Grama Sevas with the Sathya Sai Institute of Higher Learning students and faculty members in 2008 and 2011. Brother Rooshi is also currently a part of the Love All, Serve All, or as known as LASA subcommittee. Brother Rooshi, the floor is all yours.
Thank you for today's introduction, and welcome to today's session titled Life Stepping Stones, Maintaining the Ideal Balance Between Work, Family and Spirituality. Brothers and sisters, before we commence today's session, let us once again offer a small prayer to Bhagawan. Offering our loving pranams at the divine lotus feet of our beloved Bhagawan Sri Sathya Sai Baba, I pray to him that he inspires us all during the session today and guides us all going forward so that we are able to grow, develop and inspire as per his divine grace. Brothers and sisters of the Sai family, a loving Sairam to you all from across the whole globe. Before I start today's session, really I'd like to thank the talent development team who have done a wonderful job in not only facilitating today's session, but giving us the platform to hear from such inspiring young adults in the previous sessions that have happened. The media team has once again done a great job in promoting the session. But finally, I would like to thank you all for taking the time in attending today. I really hope that you find it informative and useful. But really, the biggest beneficiary of the session will be me, because by preparing today's content that I will share with you, it has served as a wonderful reminder for me on how I can continue to optimize balancing my life. So thank you all for this opportunity. So before I start, I thought I would introduce myself. As a sister has said, my name is Rooshi and I'm 31 from the UK. And if I had to define the roles that I fulfill, I simply would have to summarize it as multiple. And here is why. This is me. I am the son to 2 wonderful parents. I am a husband and have been married to Anjali for 6 years. And fortunately or unfortunately for her, she is now taken. And you'll have to ask her which one. I am a father to an 18-month-old daughter, Arya, who is truly a divine gift from the Lord. I'm a practicing doctor and have been working in the UK for the last 8 years now. But whilst working currently, I am coming to the end of my first year of a PhD in liver cirrhosis and liver immunology. And I'm surviving, but I still have 2 more years to go. So let's hope I make it through in one piece. And finally, and last but not the least, I'm a regular member of my local Sai Centre in London, where I play the harmonium on a regular basis. And as Sister has mentioned, with Bhagawan's grace, I've had the opportunity to go to Parthi on multiple occasions and participated in Gram Seva, which was truly a life-changing opportunity. But the question comes of how does it feel to satisfy all these roles to the best of my abilities? I have to admit, initially, it felt pretty exhausting to do the best I could be in the multiple roles, some of which you also have to fulfill simultaneously. But with some effort, discipline, experience, as well as insight from some amazing inspirational teachers, I have realized that life is one big balancing act, and managing these multiple roles is definitely doable. So brothers and sisters, today we will aim to cover the following objectives. Firstly, realizing the importance of a balanced life. Secondly, recognizing when things in your life seem unbalanced. 3, practical tips and methods of rebalancing yourself. And finally, to conclude with, the importance of the role of young adults in the Sri Sathya Sai organization. So let us start by understanding what balance is. If we look at definitions of the word balance, the first one that I came across was balance defined as a situation in which different elements are equal in the correct position. And really the key word in this phrase is the word equal. But the second definition gives us a little more depth into the understanding of balance, where it was defined as an even distribution of weight, in enabling someone or something to remain upright and steady. And for me, the word steady is key here. And the one, Swami's quote comes to mind when I read this upright and steady phrase, and that is you study to become steady. But if we delve further deeper into the word and hear what Swami says about the word balance, he has described it as a state that is inherent in man. But yet, if this is a state that is inherent with us and within us, why do we consistently feel how come we consistently feel unbalanced? Balance is basically a state that we should be immersed in, no matter what is going on around us, in the extremes that we encounter in a daily life, such as the chaos at work, or peace we experience in bhajans, joy we have with friends and family, or despair and sadness we might feel on a Monday morning at work. But coming on to today's topic of the session, life balance is therefore successfully and joyfully managing and living our daily lives. But unfortunately, life balance is unique to each individual. And what is balance for me may not necessarily be balancing for you. But today I will share some tips of things that have helped me maintain a balanced life. Before understanding what balance is in our daily life, let us first realize and recognize what being unbalanced is. So at this point, in the group to you all, I would like to ask you to recall a time where you felt that you weren't completely in control of yourself or your surroundings. What kind of feelings did you experience when you thought things were personally unbalanced for yourself? So please feel free to type some responses and feelings into the group chat. So the question here is to describe what you felt when you were faced with a scenario where you didn't feel completely control, or when you felt unbalanced personally. Yes, so everyone is coming up with some excellent responses, some of which are a recurrent theme here. Good. So some of the responses that we've had, and I'll read them out to you all, I'm sure you can see, is anxiety, feeling frustrated, uncomfortable, down, discouraged. And really, this slide summarizes most of what you've have said. So, one has felt tired, anxious, irritable, angry, panicked, unhealthy, restless, pessimistic, unwell, stressed, impatient. These are all natural feelings, brothers and sisters. And as you can tell in the group, you're not alone. Everyone feels the same way when you feel unbalanced. So if we know that balance is a state that is inherent in us as men, and woman, then why do we feel unbalanced? The simple and only reason why we feel unbalanced in our daily life, despite knowing that the state of balance is inherent in all of us, comes down to our mind. And Bhagawan has time and time and again made reference to the mind and how it is associated with our very being. He has said that man is the synthesis of all feelings, emotions and reactions, and this arises from our own very mind. But when the mind is turbid and riddled with fear, the world around us appears miserable and depressing. This clearly states that the origin of our feelings and emotions comes down to the mind. And so Swami goes on to say that the mind has to be studied and controlled, and therefore regulated. But for me, the last point really drives home the message and the importance of the mind, and the key role it plays in our perception, reaction, and action. Swami says that thoughts originate in the mind. They then express themselves through words, and they subsequently materialize through the deeds we carry out. These three things of mind, word, and deed have to be properly coordinated by the intellect, or else life becomes a tragedy. This is directly related to today's sessions, brothers and sisters, and maintaining the ideal balance between work, family, and spirituality comes down to controlling the mind, whereby our words will be positively controlled, and therefore our actions will subsequently be more thoughtful, measured, and balanced. Ultimately, what we really all want to do is balance and control the mind, so that reflects into leading balanced work and family life. And obviously the question boils down to how do we do this? And really this moves us on to the next part of today's session, which is practical tips and sharing of my own experiences of some of the things that I do to lead a balanced work, family, and social life. Firstly, the first thing that I think is key to leading a balanced life is recognizing the single most important thing that is responsible for this. And as per Swami's teachings, it is the mind that is responsible. So if we know what is responsible for the problem at hand, we can go some way to addressing it. And obviously, if we are aware that the mind plays a role in the ability to decision make, how do we put this awareness into practice? From my own personal experiences, really, one way of becoming more aware of our mind and our action is to set aside time for personal reflection. Personal reflection, for me, is a really important way of exploring experiences, feelings, and events, and enables us at an individual level the opportunity to reconsider events, thoughts, and feelings from a completely fresh perspective, a little time away after a situation. This time of personal reflection can be anything from, a minute to 5 minutes, but it's simply an opportunity to reflect on the activities that have been carried out in the day. You can think about something that has happened, for example, and evaluate if you have done the right thing at that specific time, or if you could have done something better. For example, if you're faced with a scenario such as having to choose between going out for work with some colleagues in the evening, or going home to be with your family, you can evaluate your decision to go, if you made the decision to go home, if that was the right one to make at that moment in time. Equally, you could, you may have had the opportunity to represent your department and shown that you're a team player. So that personal reflection time will enable you to make the decision to see if you've made the right choice. Personal reflection enables you to evaluate such scenarios that occur on a regular basis. For me personally, I spend 5 minutes a day silent sitting in the morning, giving me some time to reflect and plan the day ahead. In fact, I sit in front of this very picture you see. I also have the habit of writing a diary of daily events and significant events that I feel I need to reflect on and express my feelings and emotions about. It's not really a difficult task to do that. It may be just one simple thing that has happened in the day that I feel like I need to reflect on. And writing for me is a good tool to do that. I also, from time and again, spend 2 to 3 minutes before bed reflecting on the day's events, thinking about things that have happened, whether they be good or bad, and I tell myself that I will sleep on these issues and reflect on them in the morning with a clear mind, so that before I go to bed, I'm not mentally disturbed, because I like a good night's sleep. and having something on my mind, it doesn't enable me to rest easy. So simply reflecting on these things a couple of minutes before bedtime and telling myself that, don't worry, we'll think about this tomorrow, just enables me to put it to aside for a moment and then lets me think about things with a fresh perspective. The aim of personal reflection, therefore, is that it facilitates the process of becoming more aware of your own actions as you're reflecting on them, and hence becoming more aware of the consequences you do. It is ultimately a tool that, with time and practice and discipline, helps to control the mind and having constant integrated awareness. Constant integrated awareness is the concept of having the unity between the actions we do and our own awareness and being. And personal reflection time is a practical tool we can use to help us achieve this. The third tool that I think is vitally important to help maintain balance in daily life is learning how to prioritize effectively with short and long-term tasks. At this point, I'd like to share with you something very personal for me. As I was a teenager coming into my 20s, I actually found it very difficult to know what to prioritize and really how I should be prioritizing, until I came across the Hindu teachings of ashramas, which is a system that Hinduism teaches on how human life is divided into 4 periods. So as you can see on the screen, there are 4 periods, and I really was focused on the first 2 because those are mostly relevant to young adults. So Brahmacharya is the first phase, and that's represented by student stage, basically, where the focus is on education and learning, both practically and spiritually. And practicing self-discipline is very important during this phase, as Hinduism teaches us. Grihastha is the second stage, referred to as household life, marked by marriage. And the duties that are important during this phase is maintaining a household, raising the family, educating one's child, and leading a family-centered and dharmic life. And this is thought to be one of the most important phases in the sociological context of humans. As in this phase, not only are you sustaining yourself, but you're sustaining others as well, such as your children and parents. Vanaprastha, or the retired phase, is when you hand over to the next generation, and sannyasa is marked by renunciation and focusing your life on attaining moksha. But really, to youth, the first 2 phases are most relevant. And understanding this at a time where I was entering the prime of my youth enabled me to focus some of my time. Coming back onto learning to prioritize, I think it's very important that you work effectively and efficiently. And prioritization is obviously very important to this, as it will not only enable you to focus your efforts to do your best, but will enable you to work efficiently within a certain time period, whether that be the short term or the long term, to fit as much in as possible. And for me, the question comes on to how do you actually prioritize? Here are 3 things that I'd like to share with you. Firstly, make a list of all the upcoming tasks, whether that be center activities, exams, work projects, social activities. Don't worry about the order that these things come up in, but simply just put them all into a list. Secondly, identify from the list what is urgent and what is important. And by that, I mean see what needs immediate attention. If you don't achieve something on that list, or you don't complete something on the list, will it have serious negative consequences? So from the list that you've made, just see what will have negative consequences if you don't achieve it. Thirdly, assess the value to you next of each task that you've written on the list. Look at the list and see what's important to you and identify what carries the highest value. For example, is visiting your family who you haven't seen in a while more important to you than going to a study circle that your center has planned? This will enable you to recognize exactly what types of tasks have top priorities over the others. And once you have done these 3 things we have just talked about, you can begin to order the tasks you have made on your list from 1 to 10, for example. Finally, once you've put them all in order, reevaluate the list. If you look at the list and you feel that you haven't made sufficient time for your family or other extracurricular activities, you can then factor that into the list of your priorities. And this will go some way to enabling you to maintain a balanced work family, and social life. Right, time for a bit of a group exercise, and this is a real-life scenario that I would like to share with you all. So the scenario is this. I'm going on a pilgrimage to Prashanti Nilayam and have the opportunity to perform for a music program in the Sai Kulwant Hall. But as part of the group sadhana of the young adults that are going on the trip, I am required to attend music practices on Friday night, Saturday during the day, and Sunday during the day. But at the same time, I'm preparing for my final university entrance exam, which is due in 3 weeks' time. So the question to you all is, how do I manage this situation? Do I attend the practices, or do I step away from the music preparation? So I'd like you all to just share what you would do in this scenario with us in the group chat, and I'll give you some time to respond. So there really is a plethora of responses coming through, as you can all see in the group chat. Some of you would revise earlier, some will focus on both, some of you will need to prioritize going to the practices as well. Okay, so there's plenty of responses coming through. A few of you have said it's a duty to study. So brothers and sisters, this was a scenario that I had faced personally. We were given the opportunity to perform for Swami, if he willed it, for a program in July 2005. Except I had my final university exams for medical school coming up, which were obviously very important to me. The way I dealt with the scenario, and it was extremely challenging at the time, as I was you're ultimately torn between choosing the sadhana expected of the youth attending and the expectation of performing in front of Swami and the hope that you'll get the chance to perform, versus the expectations of passing my exams, which I subconsciously knew were actually really important for my own well-being and also for my parents' expectations. I'd been preparing for my exams for weeks, actually, prior to this, but it was only the fact that I had 3 weeks before my exams and the preparation to go on the trip that was somewhat tricky. But after reflecting on this for some time, I actually made the decision to inform the coordinator of the music program that because of the exams, I wouldn't attend the practices for 3 weeks. And I did this knowing full well that I may not be able to participate in the program completely. And the coordinator, with some reluctance, accepted my request, knowing that the exams were obviously quite an important milestone for me. And I didn't attend any practices for the next 3 weeks. And I focused my time completely on studying for the exams. Well, I know obviously, your mind on Friday, Saturday, and Sunday would be with your friends who have gone for practice and the practices itself. But I knew that the exams were important for me. And when I returned back to the practices, which were 3 weeks before we were about to fly to Bajti, I focused my time completely on the practices. Actually, the day my last exam finished, I went back to the practice on the Friday night. And I wasn't really expecting to be given the opportunity to play keyboard after a 3-week pause. I hadn't attended a single practice. But as Swami willed it, the group didn't have a replacement keyboard player. And with his divine grace, very luckily, and it was an honor to be given the chance to perform for Swami again. That was a blessing that I could cherish for the rest of time, really, now. But what was to follow for me was even more of a surprise. It was really, really a traumatic time to choose whether to have the opportunity to practice and perform, and also doing these exams as well. It was really a challenge. But the surprise was to follow. I was given the opportunity that year to offer the program card to Bhagawan, which confirmed to me that Bhagawan was all-knowing and seeing, and really knew that at that point in time was a challenge for me, and conferred to me that the choice that I had made at that moment was the correct one. But that was only applicable for how I was feeling at that time. My fourth tip to you in balancing the demands of daily life, where we all fulfill multiple roles, is taking the time to care for yourself. We all know that the saying goes, healthy body, healthy mind. But with Bhagawan's teachings, we know that a steady and healthy mind reflects as thoughtful actions. So with more thoughtful actions, one is likely to be able to lead a life which is much more measured and balanced in all circumstances. But how do we take care of ourselves? Now, for me personally, taking care of myself is following a healthy diet and maintaining an element of regular physical activity. And this is because I know from my own personal experience that when I am unhealthy, my mind feels lethargic and slow. So by taking care of myself, by eating healthy and becoming more active, can I incorporate my family life into it so that I can spend some more time with them when my working life can sometimes be very demanding with unsociable long hours? Can we as a family, for example, prepare and eat healthy meals together so that we can spend more time with one another? Can we do family-based physical exercise, like going for walks together for 2 or 3 times a week for 15 to 20 minutes? Personally, in our household, we all have breakfast together now, which is the most important meal of the day, in my opinion. And we make this family time, where we all sit together for 15, 20 minutes, enjoying a good cup of Indian tea. We all know in my household that Monday nights are football nights for me, where I play football with my friends for an hour, which is not only a form of exercise, but a social experience with my friends as well. My final tip for maintaining a balanced work and family life is somewhat new, because it is likely to be an issue going forward in a technologically savvy era for young adults, and that is the use of social media. Young adults, in my opinion, have definitely got the bug of social media use, but my advice to you is to avoid excess use. Obviously, everything in life in moderation is acceptable, but excess social media use is and will be a problem. And here is why. Evidence from medical research that's been conducted into patients who have mental health issues has shown that excess use of social media can cause loneliness, depression, addiction, low self-esteem, envy, a fear of missing out, and a feeling of replacing real life. Essentially, it takes someone away from the reality and threatens the mind with a sense of feeling unbalanced. So in summary, these are 5 practical tips that I wanted to share with you today that helps us to maintain a balanced life. We have discussed the following. 1, being aware of the root cause of maintaining a balanced life, and that, brothers and sisters, is the mind. Being aware that the mind plays a role in the ability to decision make is the first step in addressing how to maintain a balanced life. Secondly, setting aside time for personal reflection and self-audit is important, as it enables us to reflect on our own action and reaction to certain situations. Third, learning how to prioritize in the short and long term so that one's time is spent effectively and efficiently goes away to balancing commitments in multiple roles. We then spoke about taking care of yourself, as a healthy body leads to a healthy mind, and a healthy mind leads to thoughtful actions. In 5, we've just spoken about the avoidance of excessive use of social media. But so far we've focused our time on how to maintain a balanced work life, family life, and social life. But what about maintaining a balanced spiritual life? We're very lucky because Bhagawan gives the answer for everything, and he's given us the answer for this as well. He has said that if you segregate things as worldly and spiritual, even in 1,000 human births, I will not give you what you seek. Brothers and sisters, this is a very clear and very beautiful message. And really it is summarized in the next quote here. How do I integrate spirituality into my everyday life? Throw out the concept of spiritual life and everyday life. There is only one life, undivided and whole. So brothers and sisters, spirituality shouldn't be segregated from everyday work life or family life, but really it should be integrated into all aspects of our existence and the multiple roles we have as sons, daughters, work colleagues, friends. It really should be integrated into every aspect. And again, how do we do this? So I've previously spoken about 5 things that we can do, and these can easily be reflected into spiritual practice. We had spoken that the mind plays a role in our ability to decision make. Therefore, offer our mind to Swami. We know that this is the cause of our ability to decision make. So offer it to him completely. I'm reminded of Bhagawan's discourse when in February 2006, he had said, "Let your mind, intellect, and subconscious mind be constantly associated with God, wherever you are and whatever work you are undertaking." Brothers and sisters, offering the mind to him is therefore the only way we can achieve this, as controlling the monkey mind is such a difficult task that requires immense effort and discipline, and also ultimately divine grace. Therefore, my tip to you all is in your daily prayers, or even if you don't formally pray to him, just spend even 2 to 3 seconds just mentally offering your mind to Swami. Simple as that. Just tell him, "I offer my mind to you." Secondly, we had spoken about personal reflection and how it enables us to evaluate our own reactions and actions. But during our personal reflection time, spend some time reflecting and remembering Swami. Is it too difficult to remember him during the day? Remember the times he gave divine darshan and how gracefully he used to walk or come into the cycle hall in the chair. How his hair used to bounce and how beautifully he'd move it from his face. I was lucky to be there at the World Youth Festival in 2007 when Bhagawan himself had declared that if we think of him for 11 seconds with a steady mind, he will physically appear before us. Do we need any more assurances that remembering him and reflecting on him will help us feel connected to him? Thirdly, we said learning to prioritize. When doing this for our worldly life, why not factor God into our plans? In the midst of our very busy family and work life, why not prioritize time to connect with Bhagawan by factoring in going to a local Sai center or participating in a bhajan or reading Sai literature, any activity that helps you feel connected to him? Can we not put that into our priority list of tasks? We then spoke about taking care of yourself, and really this was at the physical level. But what about taking time to care of your own spiritual needs? Personally, if I've had a hectic period at work or with family and social functions, I recognize that I've actually neglected my spiritual needs, as I often feel the same feelings that you had described before, restless, anxious, and tired. And really self-reflection helps me recognize this, and also how I know how I begin to feel. But don't forget to take care of your own spiritual needs, making the time and effort to sit in front of Swami's picture, for example. Make the time to connect with him again, to take care of your own spiritual needs. So we then spoke finally about the avoidance of excess social media use. And the internet is obviously very accessible now. And I appreciate that it is very easy to overindulge in social media use. But this time can easily be, with a click of a button, substituted to spending some time reading Sai-related websites, which helps us feel more connected with Prashanti Nilayam and Swami. Brothers and sisters, these are some simple things that we can do on a daily basis that will help us not only balance our daily work and family life, but also to balance and integrate spirituality into our daily living. And really the key is to integrate it into our daily living. And here's some of the things that I do at a personal level to integrate spirituality into my daily life. Firstly, I'm sure like many of you on the call, I try to remember him throughout the day, specifically before I commence any task. In the morning, I will spend 2 to 5 minutes silent sitting in front of Swami's picture, not only self-reflecting at that time, but simply remembering him. Remembering the times he gave darshan, remembering the times that we got the opportunity to perform for him, or to even see a video of him. On my commute to work, I will listen to bhajans sung in the cycle hall. And as I'm sure you're all aware, Radio Sai has now made it so easy for us to feel connected to Bhagawan and the daily routines of Prashanti Nilayam. As a family, when we sit in the car with my little daughter, on the way to nursery, we'll recite our daily prayers together. At lunchtime, before partaking, I will mentally recite the food prayer. And then if I have the opportunity to go out for a walk, I'll make it a point to recite the Sai Gayatri. These are little things that I'm not having to make more time for, but simple things that I can easily do with very little extra effort, or things that are excessively time demanding. These are simple things that I can do to integrate spirituality into my daily life. At dinner time, once again, we will say the food prayer. And while playing with my daughter or giving her a bath, we'll informally sing bhajans to her, which she absolutely loves. But we do make it a point to do arati to Bhagawan. Now, Bhagawan has, I'm sure you're all aware, has set out the 9-point code of conduct. And that is there to enable us to progress on the spiritual path. But also it gives us a tool of recognizing what things we need to do to integrate spirituality into our daily life. But I confess personally that I do not adhere to all 9 points. But I try to follow things as much as I can in my own way. For example, I will participate in regular weekly bhajans. I keep regular contact with good company with my fellow young adults like yourselves, which is definitely a form of satsang and study circle. And I try my best to read Sai literature on a frequent basis and receive Sanatan Sarthi, which again is a wonderful tool and a feeling connected to Bhagawan. But ultimately what I've learned is that maintaining a spiritual life that is integrated with work and family life is not a sprint and is most definitely a marathon. And by this, what I mean is that as Sai youth, we have so many opportunities to participate in so many spiritual activities and sadhanas, which is obviously a wonderful thing that Swami has given us and the organization has given us the platform to do. But for me personally, in the past, by participating in so many activities at one go, I become inconsistent and I'm unable to sustain my motivation to participate in one form of sadhana, one form of spiritual activity. So if I had any advice to you, it is this. Initially, when you are trying to do sadhana at the individual level, choose one activity and stick to it, and don't try all at once. For example, make a commitment to say the food prayer a day, or recite the Sai Gayatri. And if you can achieve this and sustain it over a given period of time, then think about adding in another form of spiritual activity. This will help us to be consistently consistent. Brothers and sisters, today we have discussed about what a balanced life is. We have discussed what signs and symptoms there are of an unbalanced life. And then we moved on to practical tips we can do to maintain a balanced life. But before concluding on the topic of spirituality and how, before we conclude on spirituality and how this should be integrated in all aspects of our life. But I would like to conclude with a topic that is extremely important to me. And that is the importance and that the role of Sai young adults have in times today. I see this picture, and brothers and sisters, it reminds me of the wonderful opportunity that most of us have all had of having Swami's Divine Darshan or audience with Bhagawan. Some may have even had the gift of his sparsha, his touch. But some may even have had the opportunity of his sambhashan, conversation. Bhagawan, during his physical time with us, had put so much emphasis on youth. And this is how dear we are to him. Bhagawan had said on youth that I will protect you like the eyelids protect the eyes. You always have me and I have you. I will never leave you and you can never leave me. This was Bhagawan's message to us and the assurances he gave us of how dear we were to him and how dear we are to him today. He spent his whole lifetime on earth for us and continues to shower his grace on us. And for all that he has done for us, surely it is our turn to offer something back. So what is Sai young adult's message to Bhagawan? It is simply to make our life his message. But brothers and sisters, at this point, I would like to highlight two very important factors that a brother shared with me recently that my eyes were somewhat closed to. But I would like to raise this with you all, as you may or may not be aware of them. But I think these are really, really important into considering how the organization is and how it will be in the future. Firstly, there are an increasing number of SSE and Sai young adults who never had the opportunity to see Bhagawan before. After all, it has now been 6 years since Mahasamadhi, and how time has gone by. Post Mahasamadhi, as naturally one would expect, there has been an element of transition, as Bhagawan's physical presence was so important into the daily routine of Sai devotees all across the globe. So when this left us, there was a real sense of a gaping hole. And this is still felt today. And naturally, with the transition phase, there has been a decrease in the number of young adults participating in Sathya Sai organization-based activities across the globe. But what can we do? And what can I do? Really, brothers and sisters, the onus is on us to drive the organization forward, to promote Swami's teachings, and make our life his message. What can we do? We can strive to lead balanced lives, regularly attending local Sai centers in any capacity, even if it is once or twice a month. And I appreciate the demands on young adults are significant. So even if you can commit infrequently, make an effort to attend. Because by even attending the center like this, don't underestimate the support it gives to the elders who run the organization and the center. Because seeing that there is a genuine, continuous interest from the younger generation gives hope that your local center or samiti will one day be looked after and brought forward by the youth. Engage with young adult activities, even if the commitment is infrequent. The organization has provided an excellent platform to participate in numerous activities for the betterment of ourselves ultimately, and also society. But for them to be sustainable and for them to achieve their desired targets, it needs the support from all of us and the efforts, however much we can do with our time. Remember the physical experiences of Swami and remember them and what they meant to you, but share them with everyone, kids, fellow youths and adults, bearing in mind the fact that there are an increasing number of people who never had the good fortune of seeing the physical form. So remember your own physical experiences and share them, so Bhagawan's legacy and the style at which he operated at a human level continues to resonate from generation to generation. But really the last point is so important. Stay loyal to him, because Bhagawan has done and continues to do so much for us. He continues to do this and has stated that he will never leave us. And the least we can do for him is to stay loyal to him and to the place he made our spiritual homes, which is none other than Prashanti Nilayam and the Sai Kulwant Hall. Because not only did Swami confer peace and tranquility when we had his darshan, Prashanti Nilayam and the Sai Kulwant Hall conquered practically the same after all, because it was the ground that Swami lived and walked on. And I'm sure any of you who are in the call today, when you go to Puttaparthi today and walk inside the ashram and step inside the Sai Kulwant Hall, you get that same feeling of peace and tranquility in your mind as what Swami did when he was physically there. But finally, lead by example. That will be most dear to Bhagawan. And as we all know, Swami was the best example of someone who led their life by example. And if we look and think about every aspect of Swami's physical time on earth, he led from the front. And as youths, we should all strive to lead by example so that we can inspire ourselves to make our lives his message. This will have a positive ripple effect on our neighbors, society, nation, and the world. Brothers and sisters, thank you very much for the opportunity today to share my experiences with you. It is indeed Bhagawan's grace that I've had this wonderful opportunity in satsang with you all today. Before I conclude today's session with a closing prayer, I open the floor to any questions. Please feel free to write something in the chat if you have anything that you'd like to ask.
Thank you so much, Brother Rooshi, for sharing those tips on how we can balance various areas of our lives. I'm sure, as we have seen from the chat box, that a lot of us have learned something from this session. Just a quick note, if you're attending the session as a group or with someone else, please type in your name and the person attending with you in the chat box. Our next workshop will take place on September 23rd with Brother Sunil Hasmukrai on overcoming and changing our self-limiting habits. Details of the workshop, along with the recording of this current workshop, will be released soon. We recommend that if you have not already, to please like the Sai Young Adults page on Facebook or Instagram to be notified of the workshop details. Registration for the workshop has been officially opened, and we will be sending out an email in the next few days that will have the workshop details as well as a feedback form. We would really appreciate it if all of you can take some time out to fill the forms so we can continue to improve our workshops based on your feedback. Thank you, everyone. Let's close today's session with 1 Om and 3 Shantis. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Jai Sai Ram.